All the lessons that we learn in many different years, we learn through different cycles. So cycles are teaching us about how to live with the feminine or yin aspects of our life and how to live with the yang or masculine aspect. So in this year, 2025 and the following one, 2026, we have very strongly emphasized masculine aspect of it. And why is that so? Because the major planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, are all now in masculine signs. So we have Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. Together with them, Saturn just moved into the Aries, but in 2026, we'll have even Jupiter be moved in the sign of Leo. So with all these major planets in masculine signs, we learn much more about our action, and the best way would be how to create the best action, how to make our purposeful action. And the purposeful action is called Dharma. So whenever we have very strong yin aspects of our lives, then we learn how to balance things in ourselves, which is very important, how to become close to ourselves. This is very important, but at the same time, we're very open to influences of the others. We actually are way more open to karmic memories, to karmic influences. On the contrary, when we have strong masculine signs, we are way more open to action, to expression. It can be expressed in the two ways. One can be very egocentric, like if we are not mature enough, if we are not close enough to ourselves, and the other would be very purposeful, like a dharma way of action, which makes us essentially karma-free, which makes us truly free as a people, as a person, basically in everyone's life. The 2026 wants to emphasize that quality. And what is very important in that year is that we have like two phases of that year. There is a first phase, which is, I would say, the first half of that year, and then there is the second one. Why is that so? First thing is, at the beginning of 2026, we'll have a very strong major conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It's going to be on a 0 Aries. That means the beginning of all the actions. And if you just take 2026 as a year, you just count the numbers, 2026, you get number 10 or 1. So 1 represents the first sign, the Aries, something new. We'll have that very important conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, 0 degree Aries. Well, definitely something new starts. When is that going to happen? February 20th, 2026. Well, this is really important beginning of this year, because actually right from January, I would say, we'll have Neptune in Aries at the end of January. Then somewhere in the middle of February, it's going to be February 14, we'll have Saturn in Aries. So Saturn and Neptune will be there, and 5 days later, 6 days later, they will meet exactly. So it will be a full conjunction. But just at the same time, Jupiter, which is the planet of Dharma, of purpose, will come to a 15 degree of Cancer, which is the very degree of its own exaltation. Jupiter is the most powerful on that very degree. Very specifically, Jupiter will move retrograde to that degree and then will turn on that degree. So Jupiter is going to be very slow there, and it will stay there from February 15th to April 3rd. So we'll have basically over a month and a half Jupiter on its own degree of exaltation. This is so unique. We never had anything like that. So the year of 2026 emphasizes the importance of our purpose, the importance of becoming so close to ourselves so that we can start something new. This is happening right with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is there, and then we'll also have eclipse happening on February 17th, meaning just before that, like again, another thing, very important eclipse that would emphasize some kind of a bigger change in ourselves. So it's going to be a total eclipse and very powerful. So we can expect in our personal lives, but also in our global lives, that things will change. So this is a new beginning, new foundations of many things, many areas. You can expect that in any political events, but also in the events of climate, I would say generally, we could expect that this year, 2026, will continue with the rise of temperature, global temperature, because everything is going to be in masculine signs that are actually even hotter, than the feminine. So what is the picture? So we can see that the oceans, which are symbolized by Neptune, will become warmer. They will become very hot. Then also we can say that some glaciers, Saturn with Neptune, they will melt down, and many things of this thing can happen. So it is all making different effects in our daily life. But the purpose of it is that we need to make some change. We need to become real. And once we are real, once we are awakened, we become karma free. So this is what this year wants us to activate that. The first half of the year is like that, so activation. We'll have also Uranus enters the Gemini April 26. After all that, so Uranus will enter the sign where it was discovered back in the 18th century. So Uranus was discovered in the sign of Gemini, and it created a great revolutions in the world, but also industrial revolution as well. So we can expect definitely that artificial intelligence will become very dominant in the next 6 to 7 years till Uranus is in the sign of Gemini. This will also change us, because we need to know that Gemini represents the human sign, and then we have Uranus that is usually like technology or some kind of a cosmic influence that we will develop. So all that will influence us very strongly in the period of next 6 years, but specifically 2026 is going to be the very important beginning and the change in our everyday life. Exactly somewhere in the half of this year, June 30th, so the very last day of the first half of the year, Jupiter will move into the sign of Leo. At that moment, we'll have all these planets, all these major planets in masculine signs. So the second half of the year is way more open to different actions, to activities that we want to express ourselves. So in the first half of the year, we are just planting a seed. We are just becoming closer to ourselves, trying to become more honest to who we are. What do we want? And then the results are happening through our action. And the action is going to happen there in the second half of the year, in our personal lives, but also in the global lives. We are not really close enough to ourselves. Our action can be very egocentric, very senseless. This is the problem when you have very strongly emphasized these masculine signs. But if we actually establish that connection on the 15th degree of Cancer, which is the middle of our soul, if we really awaken something in that first part of the year, especially from February 15 till April 3rd, if we make that change in our lives, this is time for action. After that, we can act. We can really create something. We can manifest. We can start living our real life. So this year, in a nutshell, is a year of Dharma, is a year of action. This is what that year wants us to become. In the second half of it, action becomes predominant, and we will also have a Venus retrograde that will start somewhere in October, early October, like October 3rd till mid of November. There's going to be retrograde Venus. So it starts in Scorpio, 8 degree of Scorpio, and then it goes till somewhere like a 22 degree of Libra. So these first 8 degree Scorpio, many new relations we will establish at that time. So you see, Venus in Scorpio says like, okay, I want to change something. I want to change my old relationship. I don't want to stay in that one. So in some cases, we'll change it. In some other cases, we will meet some people that we know from some other lives. We call them like a karmic relationships, because Venus retrograde in Scorpio would gives us that, and then it enters the sign of Libra. Also, these 8 degrees into the sign of Libra, basically we will be able to reestablish the relationship that is our own. When I say our own, I mean our real relationship, the relationship for our soul. And every single relationship in our life is important to stabilize different state of consciousness. So if we really do our work, our homework in the first half of the year, becoming very close to ourselves, and then we start making our own action, our own expressing who we are from the second half of that year, then in October, we'll be able to meet someone. It can be emotional relationship, but in some other cases, it doesn't have to be. It can be any other kind of important relationship in our life that will stabilize that kind of activity. Because many activities that we have are connected with different people. So we need to establish specific kind of relationship to stabilize that. And this is always in us. All the relationships that we have are just reflection. They're just the reflection of what we have in ourselves, like what kind of relationship between mind and body we have in our own self. It will reflect there. And very often we are not very conscious about our own inner relationships. We just act without first feeling balance in our body when we act. So this is a lesson that we need to learn before we enter that relationship. But the gateway to new relationship for that is going to be in this October, November time for change. So I think all in all, this year, 2026, is a great one to establish a new us. This is the year of Dharma. This is the year of awakening, and more about that I will tell in a specially designed workshop that will actually go into details about all these important dates that we have in that year as the year of our activation of our Dharma.